Hello. We're continuing today on our study on the people in the book of John, and we're going to be talking about Martha. While we're talking about Martha from John, it doesn't actually start there. We have to go back to Luke chapter 10 to our first introduction of Martha. Martha, she's a sister of Mary and Lazarus, and she loved through her actions. Luke chapter 10 gives us the introduction, and it says that Jesus entered a village, and a certain woman named Martha welcomed him into her house. And she had a sister called Mary, who sat at Jesus' feet and heard the word. Well, Martha, as we assume from here, was the oldest of the family. The home belonged to her, and she carried a lot of responsibility. She loved to entertain. That was her passion in life, it seems, because we know from Luke and from John that Jesus often stopped there when he was in Bethany, in that area, and Martha was the one who entertained. But sometimes entertaining and serving gets to be a little bit heavy. That's the way it was for Martha. She loved people, she loved doing, but when you look at the responsibility of doing it, especially when you're having an important guest like Jesus, and who knows how many of those disciples came along with him. I am sure that Peter and John and James and all the others loved to eat, and Martha was probably a good cook, the reason they all went to her house. Well, so there's Martha. She's working away in the kitchen, which she loved to do, except the more she worked and the more she didn't really look at her watch, but the more she probably looked at the sun going down or rising in the sky, the more anxious she became and the more agitated she became, because there, sitting at Jesus' feet, was her sister Mary, who should have been in the kitchen helping her all this time. Mary was caught up, listening to the words of Jesus, and it just starts to build. The agitation grows, and Mary, whose life was built on a succession of responsibilities because she wanted things done, she wanted them done right, and she wanted them done now. The only way that was going to happen was if Mary got up, came and helped her. So she complains to Jesus. And she said, Jesus, don't you care that I am doing this all by myself? And there sits Martha. There sits Mary. She was anxious. And when she gave him those words, she says, don't you care? It was a reproach. She said, never, tell her to come and help me. I'm doing this all by myself. And when she did that, what she was really saying was, Jesus, don't you appreciate what I'm doing for you? Don't you feel sorry for how hard I'm working? Don't you feel bad that I am doing this for you and there's nobody to help me? Sometimes that's just the way we are. We get so caught up in what we're doing and how much we're doing and how short the time is these days, because time is such a commodity, that we forget all about why we're doing it and what we're doing it. And Jesus gave her that gentle reminder. He said, Martha, Martha, you are worried and troubled about many things, but one thing is needful, and Mary has chosen the good part, which will not be taken away from her. You see, the issue for Martha was being worried, was being caught up in the detail, was being caught up in the right now. She was not able to see the one that she was working for. She was preparing a meal for Jesus himself. She was doing what she loved to do, but she got caught up in all the details of the doing. She forgot that God had created her to serve. He had given her that ability. He had given her a desire to help others and to use all of her gifts and her talents to serve. And he said, Martha, Mary has chosen the better part. And it wasn't necessarily that Mary has chosen to sit and listen rather than prepare me dinner. It was Mary has chosen to focus on me in the midst of what she's called to do and who she's called to be. See, Jesus never told Martha that serving was wrong. He never told her, don't worry about the dinner, we'll just go out, we'll get something. No, he never said that to her. He said, Martha, don't get caught up in the details. Don't be worried about everything. Focus on one thing. He says, Mary has chosen the good part. Mary has chosen one thing. And that's what we need to do. We're entering a holiday season when it's so easy for us to have our minds going 100 different directions. And Jesus said, focus, focus, focus. He let her know that she needed to remember why she was doing what she was doing and who she was doing it for. And if I could have been there in that house, I tell you what, I probably would have seen. I probably would have seen relief come over Martha's face. And then she would have gone back to the kitchen and finished preparing the meal. And that was okay with Jesus. It was okay with Jesus that she went back to doing what she was called to do and doing it in a way that only she had been created to do. Well, the next time we see Martha is in John 11. Martha and her sister Mary are in anguish that their brother Lazarus is very sick and dying. And so they send a message to Jesus, begging him to come and help. It said a certain man was sick. This is John 11, 1 and 3. A certain man was sick, Lazarus of Bethany, the town of Mary and her sister Martha. Therefore the sister sent to him, saying, Lord, behold, he whom you love is sick. This family had the distinction of being loved by Jesus. Verse 5 says, Now Jesus loved Mary and Martha and Lazarus. But Jesus does not come. He loves them, but he still does not come. So when he heard that he was sick, he stayed 2 more days in the place where he was. And her brother Lazarus died. Jesus could have come, Jesus could have helped, but he didn't. He did not come and he did not help. He stayed where he was. 4 days later, Jesus, knowing that Lazarus is already dead, shows up. He comes to Bethany. And what happens? Well, verse 20 tells us, Martha, as soon as she heard that Jesus was coming, she went out to meet him. But Mary was sitting in the house. Martha again displays her more practical nature as she leaves Mary, family, friends, all the mourners, and goes out to see Jesus. She leaves them all, not just so she can see Jesus, but so she can confront him. One thing about Martha's personality that we've already seen with Mary back in the kitchen in Luke 10. One with this personality is usually very direct and wants help and complains when they don't get it. And Martha said to Jesus, Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. Martha vents her frustration. She lets Jesus know that, yes, you're the one to blame. It's your fault that my brother died. But then she's vented and it's out of her system. Ladies, we know what this is like. What it was like for Martha. Sometimes we just need to get it out. We just need to say what we're feeling, and then we're okay with it. We can move on. We can get past it. That's where Martha was. She did not let it build up and fester and continue to replay in her mind so that every time she saw Jesus from then on, she thought, if you'd come, why didn't you come? No. She confronted him, and that's what we need to learn how to do. We need to let issues go so that we can be free of them. And once Martha was free of this, then she was able to trust him again and to say, I know I can trust you with my future. Because she says, but even now, I know that whatever you ask of God, that God will give you. She says, I still trust you. I still know who you are. And Jesus looked at her and said, your brother will rise again. He assured her. He said, Martha, I know you're hurting, and I want to comfort you by letting you know that he is going to live again. And Martha, being a good Jewish girl, had the mindset of many Jews during that time. She did believe in the resurrection. And she did believe that Christ was coming. And she said that I know that he will rise again in that last day. But she was hurting now. And what did Jesus say? He clarified to her what he was and who he was. He says, I am the resurrection and the life. He who believes in me, though he is dead, yet shall he live. And whoever lives and believes in me, he will never die. And he said, Lazarus, even though he's dead, he's going to live. And he looked at her and he said, Martha, do you believe this? And he's asking her, not just do you believe, but can you believe in me despite everything that's happened? No matter what you've been through, can you still believe that I am the one who you thought I was? That I am the one who can do what I say I will do? And Martha makes one of the greatest statements in the New Testament. She said, yes, Lord, I believe that you are the Christ, the Son of God, who has come into the world. Martha believes not just that Jesus can do something, she understands who he is. She understands that he is God himself. And because of that, her faith starts to rise. And she has that messianic hope that, yes, this Jesus I've been looking for, this Christ, he is here now and he is with me. And her doubts are settled. Her mind is at peace. And once again, she finds peace in knowing that she's in the presence of Jesus and that he has spoken to her heart. He has spoken to her need. She needed hope, and he gave it to her. Now that her faith is settled and her needs are met, Martha immediately, again, thinks about her sister. Martha is such a caring person. She is a person of love. She's a person of action. And because she's a person of action, sometimes it means that she's not the feely type that Mary is. And so what she did is, as soon as she said this, she went her way and she secretly called her sister Mary and saying, the teacher has come and he's calling for you. You see, she left the responsibility of comforting Mary and explaining to Mary up to Jesus. She's not the feely, touchy person, but she knew what to do so that Mary would get the help she needed. And, that's okay. Maybe you're like Martha, you're not that feely, touchy person, but you can direct the people to where they can get all the hugs and the comforting words and have someone shed the tears with them that they need. So that's just true to her character. She leaves Jesus and goes on to find Mary, and later on she joins Mary and all the mourners and Jesus in the cave where Lazarus has been buried. She knows what Jesus has already said about the resurrection and believes he is the Son of God. But she is unprepared when Jesus says, "Take away the stone." All Martha can think about at this point is, "Oh Lord, by this time it's been 4 days and I know he stinks." She was so practical. Faced with the realities of death, all she can think about is what's going to happen when all these people have their senses assaulted by the odor of my brother. What's it going to be like for Jesus when he smelled? I mean, he wasn't around him. Any of you who happen to work in the emergency services, medical fields, and you've been around bodies that have been dead for a while, you know what Martha was thinking. And she did not want any of those people offended by that odor. And there she is, so practical that even in the presence of Jesus and in the midst of a great miracle, all she can think about is the need that the people have. And Jesus gently reminds her, "Did I not say to you that if you believe that you would see the glory of God?" Comprehension starts to come to Martha. She does not raise another objection. She allows them to roll away the stone. As the older sister, she could have prevented it, but she allowed it to happen. And because she allowed it to happen, out comes her beloved brother Lazarus. Martha, who had her faith tested, came out with a glowing report. She did trust that Jesus was the Son of the living God. Lazarus comes out of her grave. And 6 days later, Jesus comes back to Bethany. This time a great supper is prepared for him. Jesus came to Bethany where Lazarus was, and they made a supper for him. And Martha served. Lazarus was one at the table, and Mary shows up, and this is where she anoints Jesus with the oil. Yep. While he dines, Lazarus joins him at the table. Mary anoints his feet. Martha serves. Of course, Martha serves. There is nothing that gives her more pleasure than serving, waiting on her guest, being the great hostess. That is the joy of her life. That's what she wants to do. That's what she was created to do. This is the same Martha of Luke 10, and she's engaged in the same activity as serving, but now she is content. She's content with meeting her obligations of a hostess. She has the same heart for serving, but she's been freed from all the worry and anxiety. She knows that she herself has found the better part. She has found the one thing that's needful. And that one thing that was needful for Mary is the one thing that's needful for Martha and for you and for me. And that's to recognize that whatever we do, ever how we serve Jesus or how we serve others, ever how we worship him, ever how we live our life, we're to do it all with him being the focus and him being the reason. And during this Christmas season, remember that he is the reason. It's not just a cute little saying, Jesus is the reason, but it's reality. It will change your life, and it will give you the peace that you need to see yourself through and to have strength to face the days ahead.